You are probably going to see an awful lot of things related to today's Veda across the rest of this month. Since this is my first time doing Veda, it was really important to me that I picked topics that I could talk about at some length. Something that would be easy, that I could just, go off on. And what better candidate than the Race Against Time? For those of you who do not know, the Race Against Time is a 24-hour live streaming marathon event where myself and the other Nicks and a bunch of other guests play through the greatest game of all time, Chrono Trigger. We play through it, try to beat the game in under 24 hours, all while raising money for a good cause. In the case of 2023, that good cause is Trans Lifeline. But today's not about that. This is not a promotional video for the Race Against Time. We're actually going to talk a little bit about the history of it and how it came to be. This year will be the 9th run of the Race Against Time. That means that the first run was actually in 2015, and even though right now it's on our own channel, twitch.tv/theraceagainst-time, it didn't actually start that way. The first year that we ran the Race Against Time, it was actually not our own thing at all. It was something that was part of a friend of ours, the Goat VG, who at the time was streaming a lot. Twitch was still relatively new at that point. I don't know very much about the history of Twitch, but he was doing really well, especially with folks in Europe, strangely. He's from here, he's from Canada, he's from Ontario, but he was doing really well. And he had been doing a lot of different charity events and was like, hey, do you want to run a charity event with me? We'll do a 24-hour thing. Streaming back then was a little bit of the Wild West as far as charity streams go. So there was a lot of, donation incentives for shock collars, different costumes. Actually, that one's not so bad. I forget if alcohol was involved in any of the donation incentives. It was a very different time. During the summer of 2015, we did the first Race Against Time. It was a disaster in terms of how we did. The Nicks and I thought we were pretty hot in terms of playing through Chrono Trigger, and we weren't. For those who do not know, Chrono Trigger has 13 endings. We didn't get through any of the endings. We got the game over ending. We spent like 6 hours fighting Magus. It was ridiculous. The other bit about doing a 24-hour live stream and doing it actually in 24 hours is there's a lot of periods where, you would like to be sleeping, and also a lot of dead air if most of your audience is in, say, the same time zone as you or relatively close by. Things proceeded like that for a couple of different years. We still streamed on the GoVG's channel, out of his space. That was a good time. We tried a bunch of different things. At some point, we allied with different voice actors. We had Christian Potenza donate a whole bunch of stuff to give away during one of our charity events. Turns out that people who watch Chrono Trigger aren't necessarily interested in really cool voice actor stuff from folks that do like 16 and Sailor Moon. I started getting into making cool little widgets, which had absolutely no need during the Race Against Time, but were fun. You could see how long the different people were in our party who were on stream, how long they had been participating in the event for. It wasn't until about 2018 when we started streaming on our own channel. I created twitch.tv/theraceagainst-time, and even though it was still an annual event, and that was most of the content that was on the channel, we started streaming it there. Asking people to show up once a year and only streaming once a year on a Twitch channel doesn't work out great. I think it was 2019 where we started doing the Road to the Race Against Time, where we played time travel games up to Chrono Trigger, like the big main event. And then it might have been September of that year that I started streaming once a week, every week. Around that time, we also tried out a bunch of other things. Instead of streaming out of somebody's house, out of their living room, and having this chaotic setup, we tried new chaotic setups. One time, we ran the Race Against Time at Shopify, which generously donated the space while I was working there. One time, we ran it at a startup space, which I learned maybe shouldn't have happened. A couple of years, we ran it out of a co-working space on the weekend, which wasn't really being used during the weekends. But it was fun, and it gave us more options for how we're streaming the event. Also, as part of those changes, we got to bring on new people to the Race Against Time. Sometime between 2015 and 2019, we met Zelda Momoe, and she found us through like some random posters that we'd posted at Con Bravo. Rip Con Bravo. It's supposed to run again, but I don't think it's ever gonna get back up. And then also Dan the Video Ninja, and also Artemage84. All people who come and participate in the stream all of the time, both the event and also the regular weekly streams. It's just surprising that the way your life turns out and the connections that you form in a way that you're not expecting. I think it was also around that time that we started to learn that doing 24 hours, or maybe it was just before bringing on guests, that 24 hours straight is a terrible idea. And so we started doing 2 12-hour shifts, which is way more manageable, even if it meant driving 3 hours the night before and the night after to pick people up for the event. Then the Fire Nation attacked and the pandemic hit and everything got harder in some ways. mostly because it didn't feel safe to bring people in physically, and it didn't make sense to go to a co-working space because I don't think there really were any available at the time. So we started running the Race Against Time out of my office, my streaming space, and just having the Nyx and myself in there. And we've been doing it that way ever since. Also for the Great Magicite Fight, an event that has been surprisingly successful. And that's worked, mostly because I don't have to set everything up from scratch every time, even though every year there's always some new technical challenge to face. Over the years, we've also gotten better at the game, having actually completed the Race Against Time at least once, and I think twice, and getting close several other times. Why do we do this? I think one thing that was instilled in me from the early years of the Race Against Time, and just in general, is, you have a platform, even if it's not a big one, and you can do good with that. And so being able to stream and raise money for a good cause, in the early years, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, and in later years, Trans Lifeline, is a chance to do good and have a good time. And if you can do that, why wouldn't you? I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the history of the Race Against Time. I could probably go on about it at length, all the technical details, all the little foibles that have happened, but I think that's where we're gonna call it today. Tomorrow, we're gonna have a little bit of divergence. There, see, that one only took 13 minutes. Man, you'd think I'd get better at this. Playing time travel themed games before we played Burp. Things proceeded like that for a couple of different years. Oh God. Oh, I was so close to getting that take. Can't sneeze into camera lens. God, this is gonna sound terrible on the microphone. Okay, I'm not gonna sneeze, I guess. I'm recording, right? Yeah, okay. Cool, that would have been disappointing.